How's it going, everyone? In this video, I want to cover a fantastic book. It's written by one of my all-time favorite mentors, Mr. Brian Tracy. I first discovered Brian Tracy about 10 years ago. I came across one of these audio CDs, started listening to it. I was hooked ever since. And I really admire Brian Tracy for who he is and what he's doing. He's written so many great books. He's changed my life, and I've also had the pleasure to have lunch with him and to ask him a lot of different questions as well. We also did a book deal together. We wrote a book together with these other international authors around the world. And when I met with Brian Tracy in person, all I can say is that he's a humble man. He's still the same guy as you read in the books. He's a great guy. Thank you very much if you're watching this, Brian. You've changed my life, and he taught me how to set goals and how to achieve them as well. So I remember one time I was working in a design company. This was a very creative company. I just moved from an old company where it was all software development, and then I moved from this place, Osborne Park, to Subiaco, which is like the trendy area. And I used to work for this creative company. And it was a really nice company. I was in charge of building websites, and everyone around me was all very artistic, so that was a lot of fun. But I didn't really get along with the team, and I was only there for a couple of months because of there was a few things that happened afterwards. So I wasn't there for that long, and I didn't make that many friends. So what I did was every time I had lunch, I would go to my car, as I'm doing now, and I would just simply I'll just read my books. And this was the book that I remember reading. It's called Millionaire Habits. So this is the book, Millionaire Habits by Brian Tracy. Proven powerful practices to double and triple your income. So I remember I was sitting down and I was reading this book. This is the same book that I was reading like 10 years ago. So it's really amazing. But why habits? Why is habits so important? Because essentially we go through life unconsciously. We don't know what we're really doing, and everything that we're doing is merely just a habit. We wake up in the morning, we go to the same room, we go to brush our teeth, we do the same thing over and over again, and essentially about 80% of the things that we do is just all habits. The things that we think of, the thoughts, the behaviors, everything is just all a habit. So what Brian Tracy is talking about is we analyze the habits of multimillionaires, we take them and we apply it into our own lives. So this book is just all about those habits. It's a fantastic, phenomenal book. And once again, Brian Tracy, he delivers a lot of great content in this book. So he teaches you how to take control of your destiny, how to make better choices, how to move beyond your comfort zone, how to plan for your financial independence, how to overcome procrastination, how to achieve life ambitions, revitalize relationships, and live with energy and integrity. So, and once you read through it, it's fantastic. So I'll just give you a takeaway from the book. So he talks about increasing your income by 1,000%. So what does he mean by this? So I'll just read it. So in my book, Focal Point, I explain my 1000% formula in detail. In summary, it says if you work on yourself continuously, you can increase your productivity, performance, and output by 1/10 of 1%, which is one of the 1,000 each working day. So he's saying that you can actually increase your income or you increase your skills just by like that tiny little percent, just a tiny little percent, right? You don't have to do it like 100%, 200% every day. It's just too much, but you can do it a tiny little bit. So it goes on, 1/10 of a 1% per day improvement translate to approximately half of 1% per week. Half of 1% per week improvement translates into 2% improvement per month. So you've improved yourself by just 2% per month. Might not seem that much, but let's read on. 2% improvement per month translate into 26% improvement in productivity, performance, and output each year. So you've improved by 26% at the end of the year. Imagine that. So 26%, let's say that you've got $1,000, 26% of $1,000 is $260. Not too bad, isn't it? Let's say you got $1 million. What's 26% of $1 million? It's $260,000. So that's when it gets pretty interesting, isn't it? Almost anyone who dedicates himself to continuous personal growth and learning can upgrade his performance and productivity by 26% each year. An improvement of 26% each year compounded year by year means you will double your productivity, performance, and output in 2.7 years. Imagine that in 2.7 years, you're pumping out all this great stuff. Where are you going to be? Over the course of 10 years, by improving yourself by 1,000th per day, which is 1/10 of 1%, 26% per year, you will increase your productivity, performance, and rewards by 1,004%. This is an increase in your income of 10 times. Amazing, isn't it? Not long ago, I was giving a day-long seminar in Seattle. A young man approached me at the break and reminded me he had gone through my program and he had learned this 1,000% formula some years ago when he was in his early 20s. He said, "I just want to tell you personally that your formula doesn't work." As you can imagine, I was a bit surprised. I asked him, "How do you mean?" He smiled broadly and he said, "It's too conservative. It doesn't take 10 years. It only took me 7 years to increase my income 10 times by following that formula every single day. Last year, I earned exactly 10 times what I was earning when I first heard that formula from you when I was 23 years old." That's amazing. He told me that his income as a car salesman 7 years ago has been $35,000 per year. In the previous year, he had earned more than $350,000 and is now one of the top marketing consultants in the automobile industry in the Pacific Northwest. His previous employer pays him as much as today on a retainer as a consultant as he used to pay him for working full-time. Are these kind of results possible for you? Of course they are. The laws of cause and effect says that if you do what other successful people do, you will eventually get the same results other successful people get. This is not a wish or theory, it is a universal law. The law itself is neutral. It works for everybody, everywhere. Boom, right there. So what we're dealing with here is we're dealing with universal laws. We're not dealing with some theory or anything. It's mathematical, it's predictable as the sun rises and sets in the east. So Brian Tracy has packaged up all of these fantastic habits that you can consume and you can apply in your life. It's really tricky to get everything done, and you can't do this every single. You can't consume all the habits and get it all installed overnight. It doesn't work like that. But he goes on, and there's habits for relationships, there's habits for health, there's also habits for becoming a millionaire, of course. There's also another part called double your income, double your time off. 3 months ago, when I first attended this program, I told Brian privately that I did not believe it was possible for me to double my income and double my time off. My situation was that I've been working as an entrepreneurial business for 8 years, putting 10 to 12 hours per day, 5 and 6 days per week. I was not spending enough time with my husband and my 2 children, and this was causing me enormous amounts of stress, but I saw no way out. Brian told me to make a list of all the things that I do in my work over the course of a month. I came up with 16 items. Without looking at the list, Brian told me to ask the key question: if you can only do one thing on your list all day long, which one activity will contribute the greatest value to your company? I quickly identified that one thing I do that seems to contribute the greatest value. He then asked me to identify numbers 2 and 3, asking the same question. Then again, without looking at the list, he said those 3 items would account for 90% or more of all the value I contribute to my company. Everything else could be delegated or outsourced to other people. As I reviewed the list, I saw he was right. The next Monday morning at 10 a.m., I sat down with my boss and I told him about the analysis I'd done on work. I told him I needed his help to delegate, outsource, and eliminate 13 items on my list. I told him if I could focus on these 3 tasks, I told him I believe that I could double my productivity and my value to the company, and if I was successful and double my value, I would like to be paid twice as much. Joanne went on to say, the bottom line is that he did, and then I did. Within 30 days, I had cut my work week down to 8 hours per day, 5 days per week, and I was producing more than twice as much as ever I had before. My income doubled, and my time with my family doubled as well. It was absolutely amazing process. Darren Hardy also talks about this in his Insane Productivity Program. What you do is, a key takeaway is, what you do is you need to identify the key vital activities that you need to do that will make the biggest effect of your life in your company. For example, if you were to look at your to-do list, let's say you got your 20 to-do, you got your list of 20 things that you normally do in your company. So what Brian recommends is you need to look at maybe there's about 20% of the things on that list that's going to make the biggest difference. And it always ends up being like sales and marketing, or creating this piece of content or whatever it is that will produce the most income into your life. So what Brian's recommending is, by focusing on just those really small key tasks and just keep doing it over and over again for a long period of time, you'll get the most results. Everything else can just be like neglected. It's like you're picking the big rocks away from the small pebbles. So you want to just pick the big rocks, and that's really the key to getting the maximum effect in your business. Another key takeaway that millionaires use is the Pareto principle. As you've probably known, the Pareto principle is the 80-20 rule. So the 80-20 rule represents 20% of the things that you do will account for 80% of the results. So going back to your to-do list, if you've got 100 things on your to-do list, 20% of the things, or 20 things on that to-do list, will make the biggest difference out of the 80%. So if you were to look at, let's say that you're earning $50,000 per year, 20 things on your to-do list will actually account for that $50,000 per year. If you keep doing it over and over again, it's going to double to maybe $100,000 per year. So the key takeaway from this particular chapter is you need to identify the small things that will make the biggest difference in your life, and just keep doing it over and over again. And that's the Pareto principle. It's finding the 20% of the things in your 100% of things that you're always doing. Keep looking for the small things that makes the biggest difference. This is a very powerful concept. I know you've heard it before. A lot of people have seen it, have read it, but I've seen this happen in my own life. I'm always thinking about the key things that I need to do on a regular basis, consistently, that does the biggest impact, right? And for me, it's writing. I'm really good at writing, and it seems that it does the most. It makes the biggest difference to my business. So when I write articles, when I create content, it's always the biggest thing. So that's my thing, is creating content. Another key takeaway in regards to health, it's important to avoid the 3 white poisons. So Brian Tracy talks about you should develop the habit of eliminating the 3 white poisons, which is salt, sugar, and flour from your diet. This change in your diet is so simple yet so powerful that every one of my students who try it is absolutely amazed on how quickly they get noticeable results. So if you eliminate salt, sugar, and flour from your diet, then none of that stuff is going into your system, and you're just constantly just losing weight. So it's really amazing. Another key takeaway is practice solitude daily. Develop the habit of taking time for yourself in solitude and meditation each day. Reserve for yourself 30 to 60-minute period where you're completely alone and in silence. So what this is you're sharpening the saw, so to speak. You're actually reflecting, you're thinking about things that you need to do, and this really just helps you get better for the next day. So in summary, this is a really, really great book, Million Dollar Habits by Brian Tracy. It's not just about money, it's also about health and relationships as well. To me, I just can't believe how powerful habits are, and by installing great habits, you actually outline a pathway towards success in your life. So go check it out, Million Dollar Habits by Brian Tracy. He's got a lot of great books. He's got other books such as Eat That Frog, which is a great productivity book. But go ahead, check him out. And Brian Tracy, he's the man. He's got the minerals, and let's go install these $1 million habits.